I'm Ron Chilcote, and I'm the managing editor of Latin American Perspectives. I'm one of the founders of Latin American Perspectives, along with 11 other people. The journal was founded in 1974, and it was founded as an alternative journal. Originally, it was to have been a journal published by Latin American Studies Association, because the younger generation back in the 1970s was looking for a different kind of journal. And the problem for American scholars, North American scholarship at that time, was that the focus was on U.S. policy and his history, diplomatic history related to Latin America, but not focused within Latin America itself, and not very much tied to Latin American intellectuals. So the association's members voted for an alternative journal. I was invited to put together a proposal for that journal, which I did, submitted it to the executive committee, and we worked at it for several months, and eventually they came to a conclusion they didn't have the funds to support it. Having worked on this in Southern California with many other people, I decided, along with the others, to go ahead and publish the journal anyway. The journal was published originally as in association with the Riverside Press, the daily newspaper of the county of Riverside in Southern California. They put up the capital, and it worked out pretty well. We showed them how to do it. Our first issue was rather sensational, because of the content was a critique of dependency theory and theories of underdevelopment at a time when the younger generation, especially of academics, in fact all academics, were using this kind of material in their classrooms. And it consisted, the first journal, of an article extremely critical, written from a left Marxist view, and it caught the attention of people around the world. So initially the journal developed a circulation of a couple thousand academics around the world, and we published 4 times a year at that time. So the early first year of LAP, Latin American Perspectives, revolved around debates on dependency. And as I was mentioning, we began our first issue with this controversial article on dependency, with a lot of critiques of it. It also included an article by Andre Gunder Frank, who is the proponent of a theory of development, of underdevelopment, trying to show that capitalism created underdevelopment rather than development, which was the myth of North America in terms of trying to understand how development was taking place or could take place around the world. That controversy led to a broad interest throughout the world in the journal, and got us moving along very quickly. We published almost from the start, some 2,000 copies for each edition. These copies were adopted in classrooms for courses, and rather extensively, to the point where we began to reprint each copy of the journal, each issue of the journal, another 2,000 copies. So roughly 4,000 copies for each of those early journal issues. In this focus on dependency and controversy, we published 4 issues of debate. We were desiring to rid ourselves of the question of dependency, as Frank in his article in that first issue wrote, to critics of his ideas, and there were about 100 critics that he identified and addressed, all of whom had attacked his work in Spanish and Portuguese. We didn't know that work in English. And it was the beginning of many, many long controversies. I've tried to summarize all of that in a book on development and in theory and practice published by Rowman and Littlefield, which is an editorial press that publishes a series of books, many of the books drawn from material in the issues of Latin American perspectives. And this one incorporates all the debates, so it's very useful. And all the different kinds of approaches and theories to the whole question of development, but all of it emanating from Latin American perspectives. Now, we have published other books as well, such as this book by Steve Elner, one of the editors, called Latin America's Radical Left: Challenges and Complexities of Political Power in the 21st Century. And it's dealing with the left, as have a series of articles emanating from issues of Latin American perspectives and dealing with questions and controversies and debates within the journal. The journal sponsored other debates, such as early issues on the question of women in Latin America. And we published 3 very important issues and eventually an anthology. Those issues were distributed in as many as 5,000 copies each, and the anthology another 5,000 copies, and they all went out of print rather quickly. This was pioneering work on part of the journal. The journal, as an alternative journal, tries to be different. It tries to include a theoretical context to every article that's written. It translates a great deal of material from Latin America into English so as to provide Latin American authors with a broad English-speaking audience. Its editorial board includes more than half of the editors who are living in Latin America, and overall many more who are outside of Latin America, and every manuscript is evaluated by a Latin American. And this is why we call Latin American Perspectives a Latin American journal. It's not a North American journal on Latin America, it's a Latin American journal on Latin America that is focused on all kinds of issues and questions. Further, we're very important to us, and we're dedicated to the concept of dealing with life in Latin America itself, going into Latin America. This is not the old focus on Latin America in terms of U.S. diplomatic history. It could be focused on U.S. interventions over the last few centuries, but it really is an attempt to get into the field and bring research to the fore that people throughout the world can understand and learn about in terms of that region.